these other people. And that's the reason I'm pissed off.
That's not true.
And it's just
I did.
vomiting out of me because I've sat here with it just like Christine.
What if the woman everyone ignored was the one holding the truth all along? For over a decade, we watched Meri Brown smile politely, fade into the background, and quietly take hit after hit while Cody and Robyn stood center stage, shaping the story. But what if that silence wasn't peace? What if it was pressure? And what if Meri was never the problem but the proof? This week, the internet exploded after a grainy late-night video surfaced. One that fans are calling the beginning of the end. In it, voices believed to be Robyn and Cody are overheard, whispering about Meri not with concern, not with regret, but with panic. And then came the bombshell, a yellow sticky note handwritten by Robyn herself, found attached to an old lease agreement from Meri's Las Vegas home. Just 5 words, but enough to shake the foundation of the Sister Wives empire. Don't discuss this just yet. It wasn't just a note. It was a receipt. Proof that the silence we saw on camera wasn't natural. It was coordinated. And then out of the shadows, Meri finally spoke in her own voice, in her own words from her own porch. No producers, no edits, just raw truth. And when she spoke, Cody cracked on set on camera to the point where security had to step in. So today we're not just recapping an episode, we're walking through a reckoning, one that's been building for years behind the scenes. I'm Aria, your go-to for the real tea, the raw moments, and the reality behind reality TV. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments. Because this time the truth isn't coming from Cody. It's coming from the woman they tried to erase. It was 2:14 a.m. when everything changed. No headline, no press release, just a blurry 2-minute video that hit Reddit like a lightning strike. No intro music, no context, just muffled footsteps, a fluorescent lit hallway, and a shaky camera angle that looked like someone trying not to be seen. At first it seemed like nothing. Background noise, backstage chaos. But then the voices, whispers, low, urgent, and unmistakable. Robyn's voice came first, shaky but sharp. He's planning something, she said. Meri's been talking to people. People who support her leaving. There was a pause, almost like she was afraid to finish her thought. If she goes public with the truth, you won't survive this. And then Cody, his voice low and cold, cut through the static like a slap. She doesn't have the guts. She's been threatening this for years. We'll bury her. That was the moment. Fans didn't need full video quality. They didn't need perfect sound. They knew those voices. They felt that fear and they recognized the strategy. This wasn't an emotional outburst. This was a plan. A war room meeting between the so-called power couple caught red-handed trying to silence Meri before she could speak and the fandom. They erupted. TikTok blew up with frame-by-frame breakdowns. YouTube was flooded with reaction videos. Twitter, X was pure chaos. Fans weren't just shocked. They were angry because this wasn't about a marriage breaking down anymore. This was about control. This was about a woman, Meri, who'd been slowly erased, pushed into the shadows, and held there by 2 people who had built their brand on being the stable ones. And now that image was crumbling. The betrayal hit deep not just because it was cruel but because it was intentional. Behind the tears, the apologies, the spiritual jargon was a cold strategy to control the story and crush the one woman who had stayed loyal the longest. In just 2 minutes, everything we thought we knew about Sister Wives fractured. And in that fracture, Meri's voice finally had space to rise. No production, no crew, no glam. Just a gray sweater, a porch swing, and the sound of snow falling behind her. That's how Meri Brown chose to speak. For the first time, really speak. After years of edited confessionals and background silence, her video didn't have dramatic music. There were no jump cuts or flashy intros. Just a single camera, one light, and a woman who had waited years to say what was never allowed on air. It wasn't vengeance. It wasn't bitterness, it was visibility. I gave everything for this family, she said quietly. And when it hurt, I stayed quiet. When I was made to feel invisible, I smiled. Her voice cracked, not from drama but from holding it in too long. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't name names, but every word felt like it had been burning inside her for a decade. And the internet, it stopped. This wasn't the Meri fans had been spoon-fed for 18 seasons. This wasn't the cold, distant, or inactive wife Cody had described on repeat. This was a woman who had been erased, controlled, and contained. And now she had taken her story back. One of the most haunting moments came when she looked directly into the lens and whispered, "I'm not unstable. I'm free." That moment broke people. Comments poured in from fans, from survivors, from women who knew exactly what it felt like to be silenced in the name of keeping the peace. Her words weren't flashy, but they were devastating, and that's what made it so powerful. Meri's quiet honesty hit harder than any tell-all special or reunion drama ever could. It cut through the polish. It called out the editing, and it completely shattered the narrative TLC had helped Cody and Robyn control for years. She wasn't just another cast member anymore. She was the one telling the real story. And for the first time we were hearing it from her. For years, RobynBrown was painted as the sweet one, the soft-spoken peacemaker, the misunderstood wife who just wanted everyone to get along. But one yellow sticky note, just 5 little words, ripped that image to shreds. "Don't discuss this just yet." Those words, scribbled in Robyn's handwriting and stuck to an old lease agreement from Meri's Las Vegas home, were quiet but deafening. Posted by Meri on her Instagram story with no caption, no explanation, just that note peeking from the corner like a ghost finally stepping into the light. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be, because in that moment fans saw proof. Not speculation, not rumors, evidence. Robyn hadn't just benefited from Meri's silence. She had engineered it. The woman who cried on cue, who claimed to want unity, was the same woman telling Meri to keep her mouth shut behind closed doors. And then it got worse. A cease and desist letter surfaced, sent directly from Robyn's camp to a small podcast that had quietly reached out to Meri for an interview. The letter accused the platform of attempting to solicit content that could harm the Brown family image. Legal speak. Sure. But fans knew exactly what it was. Damage control, not concern. Control. It became clear Robyn wasn't just a participant in this family dynamic. She was a choreographer, one who used concern as camouflage, tears as tools, and contracts as chains. While her public image remained soft, spiritual, and serene, the truth behind the scenes was strategic, polished, and weaponized. This was the Robyn that fans had suspected for years. The Robyn that the cameras never quite captured, but the women Meri, Christine, and Janelle felt every day. She didn't need to raise her voice. She just needed Cody to do it for her. But now her mask was slipping. And for the first time, the woman who had always appeared blameless was being seen for what she truly was. Not a victim of the narrative, but one of its authors. And that sticky note, that was her signature. If there was ever a moment where the mask truly slipped, it was this one. The set was quiet. Cameras were rolling. A producer asked a simple question about Meri's recent video, but what happened next wasn't scripted, wasn't polished, and definitely wasn't controlled. Cody exploded. His voice, once so composed in confessionals, turned into a full-blown tirade. "She lacks gratitude. She wants to burn everything I gave her for what? Story? A victim complex?" The crew froze. The cast went silent. A producer stepped in, gently trying to de-escalate. But Cody wasn't backing down. His rage didn't simmer. It boiled. Security was called. And then, just like that, the man who had shaped the show's identity for over a decade was escorted off the set. No statement was issued, no formal explanation, just a quiet leak. An internal HR document that found its way online within 48 hours. One line said it all. Due to confrontation with production personnel and non-compliance with filming requirements, Cody Brown will be temporarily removed from SisterWives production for a duration of 18 days. 18 days. It didn't sound like much, but symbolically it was a collapse. For the first time, the show continued without him. And in that absence, something shifted. Producers, once careful to frame Cody as the misunderstood patriarch, started digging into old unaired footage. Moments of tension, gaslighting, emotional shutdowns that had been cut to protect the brand. Now they weren't protecting him anymore, and fans noticed. Cody's meltdown wasn't just about Meri speaking. It was about control slipping through his fingers. His decadescent-long narrative was finally being challenged, not by tabloids or outsiders, but by the very people he thought he could silence. And the network, they didn't rally behind him. They hit pause. For years, Cody commanded the room. He was the voice, the authority, the centerpiece. Now he was a liability. And for the first time in SisterWives history, the story moved on without him. It started quietly. So quietly that most fans almost missed it. The new season 19 trailer dropped with the usual fanfare. Soft piano music, slow-motion walking shots, promises of fresh starts and healing, but something felt different, oddly hollow. And then it hit. Cody and Robyn weren't in it. Not once. No talking heads, no cozy couch scenes, no dramatic speeches from Cody about leadership or respect. Just Meri, Christine, and Janelle front and center. The women who had been sidelined for years were now the face of the show. At first, fans thought it might have been a mistake, maybe a teaser for just one episode, but then the official press kit went out and Cody and Robyn's names were missing there too. This wasn't a one-off. This was a shift. And behind the scenes it was even messier. Within days, emails began leaking from inside TLC. Internal communications between producers and marketing staff. One memo sent shortly after Cody's onset meltdown read, "We are reassessing the focus of the upcoming season. Viewer sentiment is overwhelmingly in support of the other wives. We need to realign accordingly." Another marked confidential laid it out more clearly. "We can no longer protect the Brown family's image at the expense of truth. This is no longer sustainable storytelling." That line hit hard. No longer protect the image. Because that's exactly what the show had done for years. Fans had long suspected that TLC was editing around the dysfunction, hiding the real dynamics to preserve Cody and Robyn's central role. But now the facade was cracking and the network was backpedaling fast. Internally there were divisions. Some longtime producers reportedly pushed back, loyal to the original narrative. But newer voices in the room, especially female producers, advocated for a different direction, one that finally gave space to the women who had endured the silence. And the numbers didn't lie. Meri's raw porch-eyed video had over 3 million views in just a few days. Christine's book sold out on pre-orders. Janelle's quiet strength was resonating with fans in a way no one had predicted. This wasn't just a cast reshuffle. This was TLC acknowledging that they'd chosen the wrong protagonist for far too long. And now they were trying to correct course. For over a decade the story was about Cody, his leadership, his breakdowns, his choices. But the moment the women started telling their own stories, unedited, unscripted, and unapologetic, the spotlight shifted. And TLC, once the gatekeeper of that spotlight, finally stepped aside. Because the truth is, viewers don't want the myth anymore. They want the women who lived it. It wasn't a network leak. It wasn't a paparazzi scoop. It was a TikTok video posted by a woman with no intro music, no filters, and no script. Just one sentence. "If you want to see the real Robyn, take a seat." The woman, Robyn Brown's arrogant half-sister, Belle, and what followed. A 45-minute expose that shook the internet to its core. Belle didn't rant. She didn't scream. She recounted. Cold, clear, detailed. She spoke of growing up with Robyn, watching her master the art of using tears to manipulate, guilt to dominate, and vulnerability as a shield. According to Belle, Robyn had always known how to shift a room with a single sob. And Cody, he was her perfect audience. She weaponized sympathy, Belle said. And TLC handed her a platform to do it on a national stage. The video went viral overnight. Over 10 million views in 24 hours. Comments flooded in, not just from fans, but from women who had seen the same patterns in their own lives, in churches, in marriages, in workplaces. Women who had been told to be quiet, to be nice, to not rock the boat. And suddenly Meri wasn't alone. There was a collective realization, a shift. The quiet wife, the emotional one, the woman who'd been sidelined for season after season was now being seen, heard, believed. It wasn't just about Meri anymore. It was about all the women who had been told their truth was too inconvenient, too dramatic, too damaging. But Meri didn't stay silent. And the moment she used her voice, millions used theirs to back her up. Because history may try to rewrite women out of the story, but when they stop whispering and start speaking, the world listens. Meri was never the loudest voice in the room. But maybe that's why hers cut the deepest, because when she finally spoke, she wasn't shouting. She was done hiding. And in the end, it wasn't a scandal that broke Cody Brown's grip on the narrative. It was Meri's voice. Raw, unfiltered, unshaken. A voice they tried to mute with guilt, contracts, edits, and silence, but they failed. Even Cody's final desperate move, a lawsuit demanding $230,000 and a gag order, fell flat. The judge didn't buy it. The fans didn't buy it. And Meri, she didn't even flinch. She held up the draft NDA signed not by lawyers but by Robyn, dated from 2020, and said it plainly, "You don't get to control my story anymore." That wasn't just a legal win. It was symbolic closure for her, for Christine, for Janelle, for every viewer who had watched for years feeling something was off but not knowing how deep it went. And here's the truth. You were part of this. The comments, the posts, the threads, the TikToks. Fans kept asking the questions the show wouldn't answer. You saw through the tears, the deflections, the edits. You noticed when Meri disappeared, you heard what she wasn't allowed to say. And now finally she's saying it. So if you felt the shift, if you always sensed the cracks behind the curtain, this moment is yours too. Drop a comment below. Were you one of the people who always saw the signs? Don't forget to subscribe this channel for more truth, more breakdowns, and more of the reality behind the reality TV. Because the story isn't over, but at last it's being told honestly.